Hi everyone, it's Marisa from BumblebeeApothecary.com, and today I'm back with another requested video. I'm talking about detoxing on gaps, particularly the experience, what's it like, what you can expect, and my best tips for getting through it and dealing with it. So first off, let's kind of define what I'm talking about when I'm saying detoxing on gaps, because I do have other videos, and I'll link some of those below, that talks about different things that you can do for support, to encourage healthy detox, and also to support the body when it's naturally wanting to detox on its own, which happens on gaps and is a good thing. But the main theme of this video is going to be talking about what it's like when you're going through, especially the beginning of gaps, and your body is starting to switch into that build and repair mode. And funny things start to happen, and it can be a little bit confusing sometimes to know how to navigate through it and how to cope, or not cope necessarily, but make the most of it and support your body, and how to have the right mindset about it. And then also, as well as just talking about what it's like, maybe you have yet to start gaps, or you're very early on in it and you're curious what kind of things you can expect. So we're going to talk about all of that. So first of all, let's talk about what it's like when you're starting gaps and your body switches into that build and repair mode. So usually what's in the forefront of people's minds when they start on gaps is getting relief from the symptoms that they're dealing with. And that is absolutely something that gaps addresses. But like Dr. Natasha talks about, the body is so smart, and it's like peeling away layers of an onion. The body decides what's first priority, what's going to be the next priority as far as detoxing and healing things. So you have to go into it with an open mind, knowing that the relief from the different symptoms may not come in the order that you're expecting. They may not come in the time frame that you're expecting too. Some things will get better sooner than you thought that they would. Some things will take longer than you thought that they would, and it's all good. The body knows exactly what it's doing. We just need to trust that and listen to it and support it. So when you first start gaps, a lot of times, and I know that this is something that I have had to understand and overcome myself, especially when you're starting gaps intro, but this goes for full gaps too if you're coming from another way of eating to full gaps, is that the body will start making some changes right away just by cutting out certain things that you were eating before. And like I said, this is the most drastic on gaps intro, because it's like the best form of an elimination diet that there is. So you're getting relief from different things that were causing symptoms and inflammation and stuff like that. And then as you're making progress sealing that leaky gut, you're slowly adding things back in, and then you're moving forward, widening your food choices. But the thing that I want you to remember is when you're first starting something like this, you are also cutting out things that were feeding pathogenic bacteria and yeasts and things like that. And so your body's right away going to make some changes. The gut flora and things that were feeding on the starchier foods or maybe sweet foods that you were eating before will start to die off. And before they die off, they're going to get kind of angry. They're going to be really screaming to be fed, and once you get past that and stick it out, feed your body the right things, and they start to die off, you're going to experience some die-off or detox symptoms. Those can range from a variety of different things. It's really individual. The key is to make it go as smoothly and be as mild as possible. You don't want to make yourself miserable. And that is kind of my overarching theme with this that I was talking about, that I kind of had to learn too, is that just by cutting out some of those things that you were eating before, you start the body onto that road of rebuilding and healing and detoxing. So just be aware of how powerful that one little bit is, and resist the temptation to also load on at the same time as cutting out some other foods, load on a bunch of probiotic foods at the same time. You're gonna probably feel pretty disgusting if you do that, because you're gonna not only be starving out the pathogenic flora and things that we're eating, the other foods that you're now not eating. If you also introduce way too many fermented foods, you're also causing a big die-off by flooding your body with the beneficial bacteria that are going to go in and try to clean up, cause more die-off. So the key is to go very, very slowly. Only make one change at a time. time. The very first change is just going to be starting to eat those certain allowed foods, whether you're starting on GAPS intro or full GAPS. Then once you have adjusted to your body doing a pretty, having a pretty easy time with this new way of eating, not eating certain foods and focusing more on certain foods than you were before, and we're talking about just foods like meat stock and the vegetables, not even really the fermented foods yet, just these new foods, which, by the way, adding something like more meat stock than you ever used to eat in your life can also trigger into this healing and cleanup thing that your body wants to do once it has those nutrients. So just being aware of what all these different foods are doing is so helpful so that you don't overdo it. Remember, food is powerful. We oftentimes forget just how powerful food is, and it's amazing. So you do have to be careful to not overdo it and make yourself feel too yucky by doing too much at once. But then, like I was saying, once you're doing well with those foods, you're having your meat stock that you're supposed to in the amount you're supposed to each day, you are enjoying those different foods, then you can slowly start to add in the probiotic foods. And the way that this goes is really going to tell you a lot. If you start adding in a probiotic food following Dr. Natasha's guidelines for the GAPS introduction diet, then if you start to feel really yucky and have a lot of die-off or detox symptoms after trying a certain fermented food, that's actually really good news. You just found a strain that your body is weak in, and that means that you need to back off to a smaller amount. Now, this can be, for some people, really small. It can be a drop of liquid fermented food in your bowl of soup that you're eating. It can be a drop of liquid fermented food in an entire pot of soup. Wherever you need to start, Dr. Natasha and Dr. Becky Plotner say that's good. You are starting at a place that your body can handle, and you are slowly from there building up, and you're restoring and building up those strains in your body. And then over time you'll be able to have more and more, and then you can try another one. Like if you were having whey, then you could switch to sauerkraut liquid or the fermented cabbage brine, something like that, and build that one up. The main thing that I want you to remember from all of this is just how slowly you have to go, just how powerful, number one, taking some foods out and focusing on other ones are, and how powerful fermented foods are too, homemade probiotic fermented foods. The next thing, let's talk about what these detox symptoms can be like, because if you haven't experienced it yet, you might be kind of curious. So like I said, they can be very different. It's very individual. It really depends on your particular microbiome, your particular symptoms that you've been dealing with. They can be flu-like symptoms. They can be a headache. They can be just feeling tired, really tired is a die-off or detox symptom. That just means your body is working really hard, and it's important to listen to that and give it what it needs. Cut out unnecessary stuff, give yourself a ton of sleep, lots of extra rest, and just you'll get through it and you'll feel so much better on the other side. Die-off or detox feelings can feel like a nausea. If you're really going too strongly with it, there can be vomiting. That's okay. Just definitely means you're probably doing a bit too much and need to back off. So any kind of flu, it could be cold-like symptoms, extra discharge from your nose, like feeling like a viral cold, that can actually be a die-off or detox symptom. It can be skin rashes breaking out, especially if this is something that you're trying to fix. A skin rash getting worse can mean you're doing a little too much, usually of the fermented foods or something like that. Really, it can be anything that kind of seems like a viral illness or that was like an old symptom. Now here's where a lot of people get confused, and they're like, how can I tell what's a die-off or detox symptom and what's an old symptom getting worse? And the good news is, it actually doesn't matter. They can be those two different things for sure, but the solution is the same. It is to back off a bit on adding your new foods. If you added a new food recently, you probably need to take that back out and spend some time on the previous step. If you added some more fermented food, you increase the amount, you need to back off of that. So the solution is the same thing, whether it's die-off and detox or an old symptom coming back from moving too quickly, same solution. Back off, back up. slow down. I know for me, cleared up a lot of stuff when I learned that. And then let's talk about ways to get through these die-off and detox symptoms. The number one thing to remember is that it's not always gonna feel like this. This is usually what you experience more in the beginning of GAPS, and you'll get through it and you'll start getting relief from those symptoms. Your body will be doing its work, cleaning up, getting rid of stuff, and then on the other side, you're gonna feel better than you ever have before. I have experienced that, and I know so many other people who have too. So remember that your body is doing important work, support it, and just trust that it knows what it's doing, because it does. And then there are some really practical things that you can do to help support. You want to be careful as you start any of these things to go slowly and kind of make sure that they're actually helping and not making things worse. It's very individual. Just really listen. Lean towards the things that feel right, that feel like they're helping. And if anything feels like it's making you feel worse, then don't worry about doing it. So number one thing that I like to suggest are detox baths, especially Epsom salt baths. If you hit the fermented foods a bit too much and you're really feeling yucky, taking an Epsom salt bath is usually a really good way to feel a lot better very quickly. You can do several of these per day if you need to. You can also do other types of detox baths. In either of Dr. Natasha's books, but especially her new blue book, she talks about all the different things that you can add to detox baths. And these can be full body baths in the bathtub, or it could even just be a foot soak with some of these things. Skin brushing or dry brushing is another way. For some people, taking a few drops of Bach Rescue Remedy on your tongue can really give some fast relief. If it's like a histamine type of feeling of reaction that is really uncomfortable, then I've heard some people recommending this bee immune throat spray. It's actually bee propolis, so you can spray that either in your mouth or on an area of the body, depending on what your symptoms are. And it's like a natural antihistamine, so that can really give you some relief. Sometimes just drinking more water will help flush things out. Sometimes getting more sleep is what you need. That is something that I cannot emphasize enough about when you are going through these, especially these deeper healing where your body's working really hard, times either in the beginning of the GAPS diet when you're first starting, or later on when your body decides, okay, now we're gonna do some deeper healing. You'll know when that happens. Do not compromise sleep. You really have to prioritize that. Otherwise, you're not gonna heal. And then the last thing that I wanna talk about is keeping bowels moving. So if you started the GAPS introduction diet, and by the way, if you had chronic constipation before GAPS, you do not want to start with GAPS intro because that's very low fiber and that's going to make things worse. You want to start with full GAPS. Focus on liver support and getting that chronic constipation resolved, and then you'll be ready to go back and start GAPS intro. But if the constipation was not an issue before starting GAPS intro, and then you start intro and things slow down and you're not having at least a daily bowel movement, then that's something that can start to make you feel really yucky very quickly. You want to make sure everything stays moving at least once a day, and water enemas are a really, really good way to get very fast relief, safe, easy way to get relief from constipation. Dr. Natasha talks all about exactly how to do that in this new blue book of hers. I'll have this book linked below in the description box, and I highly recommend getting a copy if you haven't. Even if you already have her yellow book, this one is so much bigger, it's more expanded, it has a lot more new information. It was a fun read. I really enjoyed reading it. I learned a lot, so I highly recommend it. Okay, I hope that you found all of those different tips helpful for dealing with die-off and detox on GAPS, what it's like, way to kind of work through that and make the most of it. If you have any further questions for me, leave me a comment down below. Also check out that description box. I have links to free ebooks and other goodies. I have a free GAPS diet getting started guide. I also have a free class on how to start the GAPS diet with more confidence and less confusion. You'll find links to all that in the description box down below. If you did like this video and you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else who you think would find it helpful. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out 2 new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.